Appreciate you all hopping on for our SQEP overview. So yeah, my name is Brian Alexander. I'm a customer success manager here at SupplyPike. I've been with the company just about 6 months now. So I'm still relatively new, but came over from spending about a decade with a transportation company in Northwest Arkansas, a pretty large one, I don't know. But very excited to be a part of the team and to be doing this webinar here with Parker, who is our product manager for our compliance systems, both OTIF and SQEP. So very excited to have him on. He's already mentioned that he loves March and March Madness. So wait, are you more of a football or basketball fan? I got to ask real quick.
College-wise, more a basketball fan. I think I'm a bigger fan of the NFL though over NBA, but still love all sports. Can't
Gotcha.
any of them.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. Yeah, because you had mentioned you had gone to the Arkansas football game this past weekend, so I didn't know, yeah, if that one. But then you also mentioned March Madness was your favorite, so I was like, oh, okay, very cool.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
definitely
very
all
excited.
sports.
Do what?
No, definitely all sports though. Yeah, and heartbreak hogs in football right now. So I guess basketball. We're looking forward for that.
I've luckily never gotten too wrapped up in Arkansas sports, or being here in this area would definitely affect me personally, because yeah, it's pretty rough sometimes. Go Jayhawks. Yeah, Kansas. Man, is Bill Self still the coach there for
Yep,
basketball?
still
Okay,
is.
yeah. So yeah, they do have a good program. Yeah, so really quickly before we get started, kind of want to talk about like why we're having this webinar in the first place, and what we're going to be talking about. And so really that starts with who SupplyPike is, right? So we are a software as a service company. We created a software that helps CPGs, helps you all reduce your revenue loss by going out, automatically detecting and resolving those retailer compliance issues that you have. We have employed over 400 customers that represent a large section in the retail industry across all categories. And we're really looking for companies that, deductions, compliance. We want to help companies across the board fight those Walmart deductions and compliance issues that they may be receiving. It started with our OTIF system, but recently we've begun diving into SQEP some, SQEP, and so have introduced that visibility into our platform as well. And so one of the areas, Parker, if you want to go forward real quick. One of the areas that we've kind of realized that there's a big need out there is in the compliance, in the OTIF and the SQEP process. Over 63 defect types and more are coming each day, it feels like. And on top of that, there are a lot of different ways that these are calculated. And if you want to kind of understand a little bit more about that, it can lead to a convoluted process on the Walmart and high radius side with a 200-page document, a plus document where it shows information for each of those defects. So it really creates a confusion for a lot of people. And so there's not a whole lot of consistency, not a whole lot of clarity in what they are looking for and how those things are calculated. So what our SQEP system is doing is hoping to provide that clarity and consistency. So like I mentioned, Parker is our product manager for this compliance for these OTIF and SQEP systems. So I'll kind of let him lead from here. But very excited to kind of dive into this.
Yeah, glad to be here and talk about what we've kind of been building out and looking into. Definitely trying to be thought leaders and industry experts on SQEP as a whole. And I know we say SQEP, but SQEP, you can also call it that. We call it SQEP for short. So just so you know what we're talking about when we say SQEP, it's just, that 4-letter acronym there, which stands for the Supplier Quality Excellence Program. Basically a bunch of buzzwords that Walmart kind of threw together in one kind of sentence or one jumbled acronym there. But yeah, as far as what SupplyPike has kind of built out so far, you can kind of view all of your SQEP performance data in one spot, identify the most common defects you're being hit with across your kind of last 12 months, of those defects that you're getting hit with, kind of get detailed insights and, the ability to do root cause analysis to prevent future SQEP fines. Similar to the OTIF side, there can be some that are invalid, but for the most part, they are valid. And there's a lot of room open for you guys to kind of reduce or prevent SQEP fines as a whole. and save a lot of money that way. And so with that being said, our app also has a lot of in-app explanations for the most common defect types. We've got, about 25 or so articles written out for the most common defects that people are hit with and kind of how we've perceived it on areas you could be going wrong and ways you can try and reduce or prevent them going forward and save you guys those dollars. Just kind of an update on our SQEP roadmap. In Q2, we kind of launched this visibility, so we've been working on it, got the data pulled in. Since then, we've kind of been evaluating our options on what we wanted to do next. So if you guys have feedback, we would love to hear from you guys. Whether a FixIt integration would be helpful with kind of that ticket help and the submitting of corrective action plans, or even just helping assign those tickets back to Walmart on the ones that might be invalid. Because you may have noticed if you're playing around in FixIt, that sometimes they have images of stuff that's not even your own product or your own items, and you're like, well, why am I getting a fine for this? This is a completely different company's pictures there. We are also looking into SQEP disputing through high radius, so these charges can be disputed to high radius, but like I mentioned, most of these do seem valid, although one that we do see commonly invalid are the overage charges as part of the SQEP program. So we've been helping suppliers out dispute those with us and seeing pretty good recovery so far. So kind of evaluating the benefit of just, being able to dispute just the overages only versus going after everything, even though most charges are valid, or if that kind of FixIt process and almost informally disputing ahead of time by, working with those tickets and talking to Walmart will be most beneficial. So if you guys have been dealing with SQEP fines and you have success disputing it or are noticing those things and FixIt like we talked about, would love to hear your feedback, and it would definitely help us prioritize where we're kind of leaning as far as, disputing or, building in that FixIt integration. And I think with that being said, if there are no questions so far, we can definitely look at our in-app tour here. So we'll keep this pretty light and brief, but give you guys a good overview of what we've kind of accomplished so far. And this kind of covers what we're looking at in the future updates as well. Would definitely appreciate any feedback though. So yeah, let's take a look at it. Gonna jump over here. And hopefully you guys are seeing this all right. Brad, do you mind confirming that you're seeing the SQEP dashboard on your screen now?
Yep, you are good.
Awesome, cool. Well, yes, this is our SQEP solution. So as you guys know, we work within multiple retailers here, but specifically Walmart was our first one. So we have a full deduction solution. We have kind of a executive summary here on the left side. We have our older OTIF app, which was kind of started as visibility, but have also kind of incorporated that disputing feature too to high radius for the OTIF side. And then SQEP is kind of our brand new baby here. We've kind of, first got our layer foundation of visibility, and have since then just continue to monitor it, get feedback, and see what we want to kind of continue to advance on it. So as you guys are looking today and you're like, oh, this is really cool, but it's missing this, would love to hear that. Would definitely help us prioritize what to work on next. With that being said, we can kind of break through what we have so far and see if it would be helpful for you guys. If you're a current customer too, maybe this is just a good refresher of, how to use the app or what you should be looking at for, and hopefully, can accomplish a lot today. So I think just starting off from the top, I've got May 2023 selected here. And we're looking at, so these top KPIs are going to be based on the month you have selected. So right now it's showing you the number of PO lines that were ordered from a certain month, this month being May 2023, and it also compares it to last month. So you can see less lines were ordered in this month. Also, next down the line here is what was actually inspected this month. So you might notice that, this amount of lines are ordered, but currently not everything's being inspected for SQEP. So we do kind of expect those fines to start hiking up as they start to tend to fully automate everything. Right now they're using mostly quality inspectors because their automated stuff has had some problems with accuracy, like we mentioned, and we mentioned those fixed tickets having incorrect images and whatnot, leading to invalid fines. So yeah, in the meantime, they have just quality inspectors looking through these DCs for any of these defects that we mentioned. I think we said there were 63 or so of them right now, and counting as they continue to update it. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And we're always here trying to be a thought leader and industry expert on seeing what's new coming out. So the full SQEP timeline, they kind of have mentioned 4 phases. 3 of those have been launched so far, and we kind of have them tracked down below. And that 4th one, being kind of more transportation related, has not had a date set on when they kind of want to launch that, but we're still keeping an eye on it for you guys. And then, moving down the line, still up on the top here, of what was the total inspected. how many defects were actually found, which also compares versus last month, and then of the defects that were found, how many total charges resulted as part of those defects too, giving you kind of an overall summary. Scrolling down here though is kind of our charges over time chart. So we break down the fines in these main 4 categories that kind of Walmart has already predetermined, with the PO line accuracy kind of being the one that's mostly full of scale so far, because that one's mostly online and not, related to DCs or not, whatnot. Otherwise, case compliance, pallet compliance, load compliance are kind of all done on an inspection basis, while PO line accuracy is kind of done on an online basis. So most of those charges are fully to scale for PO line accuracy. These other 3 categories, we wouldn't see them fully at scale for what we might expect. So definitely keep an eye on those, as those can kind of spike up out of nowhere here. If they start to get that fully automated tech, good to go. Additionally, you can hover over these months, see the charge breakdown like that. You can also look at, instead of dollar amount, the actual number of count of defects found per month too. That's one thing we can have. So you can see how many defects are actually being found versus the actual charges. And like we mentioned, there are 6 different ways these fines are calculated. So something to keep in mind is why you might see that these 2 charts, you would think they'd be pretty close. They might have a little bit of variation though, just based on the types of defects that are found and the way the charges are calculated for those. You also notice we have the kind of the stripe bars on the far right here. That just basically means that this is a projected fine, so it's not official. So we still also track projected fines too for both OTIF and SQEP. But those are, not official, so you can't always guarantee they are actually going to hit. If you guys may have a reason that Walmart's exempting you or something like that, that's what we'd be looking at here. And then, just continuing to scroll down, we also have our summary down below. So this is where you can kind of start to get an eye for what your biggest problems are, biggest pain points are. We have these main 4 categories, but you can also break it down by number of defects and which kind of sub-defect types are hitting you here. So within the PO line accuracy, in this case, you'd see that overages were a big part of the problem here, versus ASN not downloaded also being one of the ones for this PO line accuracy segment. And you may be asking, what is an ASN not downloaded? We definitely have a lot of content built out around this stuff. So if you're curious, what even a charge is, definitely stay tuned, because we'll have a link to our kind of homepage of where we host all of these articles that would help explain kind of what something is, why you're getting it, how to fix it, all that kind of good stuff. As far as pallet compliance and load compliance, looks like we only had 1 defect kind of type in those, but there are sub defects that kind of fit into that. So this is kind of still more high level executive summary type on this dashboard. But once we get into the defects page here next, that's where you can kind of dig into the details of see, what exactly went wrong and why are we getting these and what other information is available out there to kind of try and track these and see if we can have an idea of, what may have gone wrong here. So jumping over to the defects page, we've got those
Really
same
quickly,
categories split up. And sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say really quickly, if you go back to the dashboard, one of the biggest questions as CSMs that my customers reach out and ask about is, if you scroll up, is like, how did this compare to last month? And you can see the numbers in the charges over time and the defect trends, but just having that over last month or against last month there in those kind of top line items is really, really impactful for me, because I can just kind of quickly come over and say, 18 defects, that's 7 less than last month. I'm not sure if we can dig into this more and kind of understand why, which we'll get to here in a second with the defects. But I think that's just like a really great way to quickly showcase exactly that month over month, because that is a metric that a lot of my customers in particular are looking at. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, it's a great call out. I would also say stay tuned for our multi-month feature coming out later, hopefully in the next month or so here. Just keep an eye on that, where you can also compare like 3 months versus the previous 3 months, just like he said. So maybe more valuable, or even year over year once we have enough data of that. This goes back as far as 13 months when we started pulling this data for our current customers or even new customers. So a lot of data to work with and kind of see, how big the pain point has been over the past year and what areas, are improving versus what are seeing more and more fines as the quality inspectors start picking at certain defects a little bit more. Jumping over to that defects page, like I was saying, have those main 4 categories broken up here. So you can click on these as well as these tabs at the bottom to change around and see what you're looking at. So specifically on this month for PO line accuracy, we noticed that the defect type was either overages or ASN not downloaded. So we have a filter there for you guys that if you want to look at only overages or only ASN not downloaded, you could do that. as well as the defect source. If you're like, did this charge come from FixIt or some ASN related defect? In this case, on another tab, you could look at, inspection versus automation. If there was automation, they've kind of done away with the automation for now, but you can keep an eye on that and see, where defects are coming from. And ones that are automated are more likely to be invalid. So if you do start seeing more automated being your defect source, you can definitely keep an eye on that. Otherwise, we have other filters, like if you want to look at only one of your 9-digit vendors, and then like we showed, the defect type as well. And then there's also a sub defect type for any of these last 3 categories. There's a sub defect type. PO accuracy did not have a sub defect type the way that one was set up, but these other 3 categories do have that kind of subtype. So you can keep an eye on that and see that, like, pallet quality, we got dinged for 4 different times in this month. One of those was poor quality. The other 3 are kind of fair quality. You'll notice the charges are the exact same for all of those. So it's not a big difference between having poor and fair, but they just want you to kind of have them great. And if you're curious for more details about that, one thing I had been mentioning is that we do have a lot of content built out around these different defects and how you can go and look at further and understand what those actually are and how to prevent or reduce them. So you can also click on these details pages here too to get more detail and information on a certain PO. And sometimes a PO will actually have multiple SQEP defects across all the tabs. So this kind of page would have all of those listed here. In this case, only one. It was just the pallet quality, but you can keep an eye on that, especially if you're a bigger customer. Definitely more common to see multiple defects on a PO, as well as any other kind of information that might be relevant. Otherwise, we have a lot of the same stuff listed out on the previous page and in kind of our scrolling chart here. And we can go to pallet compliance and see. So not always item number and description saved for kind of pallet and load compliance stuff. Case compliance is where you'd more see that stuff. That's why that's blank. But really have any relevant columns that you might care about pulled in, and the kind of affected cost of goods sold and all that kind of good stuff in this case. Back to the details page though, this link right here is like I was mentioning, where we have all that kind of written content about all these different defects. So if you're ever curious about what a defect is, that would be my recommendation to go check these articles out. Definitely identify your biggest kind of defect types and subtypes that you're getting hit with the most, and then you can go ahead and hit learn more. On this page, we'll have a variety of articles, like we got like 24 or so right here, about those different defects, where you could read, oh, what is ASN not downloaded? Why am I getting hit with this? I feel like I'm sending my ASNs. And definitely, we can go through this list here and see if there's anything that looks relevant to you, and one that you're seeing commonly. Have a lot of different good ones. And we did the kind of the math ahead of time of what the most common ones were. So this should cover about 95% of your problem here.
Parker, we actually had a question from somebody in the chat. Kenneth asked, is incorporating photos or really anything from FixIt part of the system either now or in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question from Ken there. Looks like we currently do not integrate with FixIt yet and don't have those photos. That's something we're kind of weighing to see if we want to go ahead and do that. So definitely a great question. If that's important to you, that's great feedback to hear. We would love to be able to, integrate with that different data source and have 2 kind of all at once here in this app. This is all kind of mostly SQEP dashboard data. But as you guys know, FixIt does have a lot of good photos that might, clue into what a defect is, and definitely those processes in that app could be probably automated a little better too with our help. So yeah, that's definitely not in here yet, but it's on the roadmap below, and would love to go ahead and try and work on that too.
Yeah, and I think Crystal would also throw her hat in, because she mentioned that they've had a lot of luck disputing through FixIt even prior to them being fined. So they'll see the ticket before it even gets fined, and then they'll go ahead and dispute it through FixIt. So
yeah, that's also great feedback from Crystal. Love to hear that. Definitely have heard that from others too. So you're doing the right thing by kind of working through those tickets ahead of time and trying to kind of almost informally dispute them. I am curious from your end, Crystal, if you've actually been able to track those down, where like they remove a ticket and delete it, the fines actually truly did get removed. I'm curious if you've seen anything with like how they actually notify you that a fine was removed from the other app, where you actually do get fined, and if doing that FixIt process has been beneficial. So thanks for sharing that, though, that you have had some success having those tickets removed because they are invalid. I think as far as this app is concerned, though, other callouts I didn't mention yet, we do have a lot of download buttons. So on the dashboard, We have you can download a PDF of this if you wanted to share it internally. If you wanted the data, this kind of main chart here, you could do that. Or if you just kind of wanted the defect level charges, kind of each of those transactional data points, we do have that as well in this download button here. On the defects page itself, we also have the download buttons to download all defect charges, like we mentioned from the dashboard, same type of data point. Or if you wanted to only download for your current tab and filters, so let's say I was looking at overages only and wanted to do that, you could download this data file for only overages within this month that we're looking at here and download that out. And that's definitely been a successful process for a lot of our customers so far, as we've helped them kind of dispute these overages through our app by doing this exact same process where they kind of come to this defects tab on a certain month, pick the PO line accuracy, filter to overages, and download that bottom one. And there's really not much more that's needed as requirement to dispute these. So if you guys were curious about wanting to dispute those, definitely reach out to your CSM if you're a current customer, or if you're not, we would love to help you out still regardless. If you wanted to, talk to us about connecting, all of your compliance data, we'd be happy to help that too as well. But the early signs indications have been pretty good on overages being commonly invalid. And, what we see from that typically is that these overages oftentimes match up to an invalid in full fine on the OTIF side. And you might be even getting triple ding there too, where there's also a shortage deduction on that process as well through APDP. So both in full for OTIF and these overage charges for SQEP are disputed through high radius. And we have, built out a process for disputing the high radius on the OTIF side, but not yet for SQEP. So definitely would love to hear if that's important to you. Otherwise, yeah, we're definitely happy to help you guys at least kind of mainly dispute these overage charges for now, using our data out of this app and kind of helping you take the best steps forward. Like I kind of mentioned, it's kind of early to benchmark the data with all the companies we've been doing this with. But we're seeing, pretty good recovery on the overage stuff. So if that's something that intrigues you, we'd definitely be happy to help. Checking the chat now. Looks like, yeah, great feedback from Crystal. Looks like they do end up removing those fines. And Ken's saying the same thing, where those invalid charges do show up in the FixIt portal. So definitely great to verify. If they do end up getting charged, definitely have to go through high radius, like you mentioned. So love to hear that on both your guys' sides there. Yeah, curious if anyone else has any feedback, any other questions about what we've kind of shown today. I think that's mostly it for what the app has. I think we have a few extra slides here at the end, which we can go back over through. But otherwise, this is mostly our kind of foundation of visibility for now, and definitely, looking at the best steps forward on what we can kind of build out next and what will be most beneficial for you. So if the FixIt process is important to you, this has been great feedback on the chat about that. Otherwise, would definitely love to kind of build that integration to high radius and disputing like that, like we do for the OTIF side. So give you guys a second to type any questions. Otherwise, we can jump back over to the slides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think one of the things that Kenneth and Crystal are talking about is trust but verify, definitely. So we want to be able to kind of help you with that process as much as possible. So yeah, any feedback that you do have, please let us know. We also have the Q&A portion. If you want to ask a question, you can feel free to post one in there, and then we can get to it whenever we're able to. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll jump back to the slides here and just kind of share some general questions we're looking to ask. So let's see here. So yeah, I think we've kind of asked these throughout the presentation anyway, but if you see any of these three and you kind of know about data sources you're using or stuff that we haven't kind of integrated with it yet and that would be helpful, or any other pain points as part of the SQEP process, would love to be a helping hand there. We're definitely trying to be industry experts and stay on top of anything new that comes out with this. So you can kind of count on us to be doing the research ahead of time for you and making your life easier overall. And, helping pair that visibility solution on SQEP with our OTIF solution for kind of our whole compliance picture that we're able to offer. But yeah, I think we've got some great feedback though on the FixIt process, and thank you guys for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, feel free to drop any questions that you all have, or just feedback into the chat. Like Parker mentioned, we're definitely looking for as much feedback as we can as we continue to build this out. I think one of the things you just kind of breezed over that is going to be huge, and that is a big customer request, is the multi-month feature, being able to select multiple months. Typically most of our data is you can view it by week, you can view it by month view, but having that multi-month is going to be really awesome. Big help for me, at least, in helping customers, being able to talk to them about some of their data. So very excited about that. Yeah. Yeah, Kenneth agrees. I think most of my customers, their one request for compliance with OTIF has been either SQEP or multi-month, multi visibility aspects to it. So yeah, I think that's a great call out. OTIF for multi-month. Yes, yeah. So the multi-month will be available, Parker, correct me if I'm wrong, but it will be available in both of our OTIF and SQEP compliance apps. So
Yep, that's correct. Should be for both of them coming out
yeah.
here pretty shortly. So we'll definitely make an announcement about that. But yeah, definitely coming out
Perfect.
soon.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I want to say I just appreciate everybody hopping on that was able to. I really enjoyed getting to go over SQEP through SQEP Timber with you all. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Parker and myself directly at our emails, first name, last name at supplypike.com respectively. You can also just go to supplypike.com and reach out to us there to leave any feedback that you may have. For being a part of this webinar, we will be sending out a copy to everyone that hopped on. So don't worry about jotting this down. We'll get that over to you. So really appreciate you all so much. We'll stick around for a little bit longer, but that is all that we had. So again, thank you so much and have a great rest of your week. Hope it's a beautiful weekend wherever you may be. And yeah, see you soon.